The Dodgers miss out on big names, but might have made a sneaky, clever move right at the buzzer of the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Hi, I'm James, the faithful Angelino Sports, with a special report. The Dodgers at the trade deadline. And if you enjoy talking about the boys in blue, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelinos. We talk Dodgers baseball here every single day. LA, right at the buzzer, picked up Ryan Yarbrough from Kansas City. He started the year in the bullpen, but wound up becoming a significantly more effective pitcher when he moved to the Royals rotation. His ERA overall this year, 4.24, but in his last 4 appearances, all starts, it dropped to 2.19. So he is now seen as a potential back of the rotation guy, but we'll get back to that rotation in just a moment. 2 major starting pitching targets for the Dodgers chose either to go elsewhere or not come to LA at all. That is the key takeaway for this day's trade deadline. Mets starter Justin Verlander, a 3-time Cy Young Award winner, is returning to Houston as the Astros try to defend their championship, which is probably the first one they got without cheating, but I digress. Detroit starter Eduardo Rodriguez, meanwhile, invoked his no-trade clause and declined to come to LA in a trade. This is according to Jeff Passan of ESPN. These 2 developments come just days after Dodgers manager Dave Roberts summarized his team pitching by calling it, quote, not sustainable, unquote. And can you understand why? Absolutely. Los Angeles' starting pitching combined for an ERA of more than 6 in the month of July. Moreover, every single Dodgers starting pitcher that was on the opening day roster has been on the injured list. For example, Dustin May, one of those starters, underwent a second elbow surgery just about a month ago. He's out for 12 months. For that matter, Walker Buehler was supposed to be the heir apparent to Clayton Kershaw. Hasn't pitched at all this year. He had a second Tommy John surgery during last season. Maybe he returns by the end of the year. Maybe not. Either way, would you trust him making starts in the playoffs? Of course not. LA was clearly looking for somebody that they could pair up with Kershaw, a second ace, and perhaps cobble together a 3 to 4 man rotation when the playoffs come around. Now, the Dodgers also acquired a starting pitcher last week in a deal with the Chicago White Sox, but Lance Lynn, who will be starting for the Dodgers tonight when they take on Oakland, left the American League having allowed the most hits, having given up the most home runs, having surrendered the most earned runs. So it is highly unlikely he's the answer. It is the second consecutive year that the Dodgers have failed to land a big asset at the trade deadline. Do you recall last offseason? We were all thinking about people like Juan Soto and such. But all LA could muster was reliever Chris Martin and outfielder Joey Gallo. This year, the Dodgers added a lot of meh, frankly. They did bring back popular players such as utility player Kike Hernandez, Joe Kelly, a reliever. In addition, the Dodgers picked up shortstop Ahmed Rosario from Cleveland. The Dodgers basically benefited, oddly enough, at the trade deadline, by whom they purged, maybe even more so than who they acquired. Trace Thompson, for example, is gone. Back to Chicago White Sox. He was an automatic out. He was 0 for 39 at one point this year. Noah Syndergaard, terrifyingly bad in rotation. Now he's in Cleveland. For that matter, moments before the trade with the Royals to get Yarbrough, the Dodgers sent Phil Bickford and Adam Kolarek to the Mets. But that was just for cash considerations. What I can tell you, if you're wondering, though, about where this puts the Dodgers in terms of going for the playoffs, the other teams in the National League West also mostly struck out in their quest to catch LA. The Padres made a couple of moves that were kind of decent. They acquired starting pitcher and former Dodger Rich Hill and first baseman Ji-Man Choi from Pittsburgh for 3 Slum Diego minor leaguers. They also, at the buzzer, picked up reliever Scott Barlow from Kansas City. But the Puds are 5 games out of a wild card spot, let alone how many more games they are behind LA. So, as you might recall, last year, they were the big winners at the trade deadline. They were the big winners of the baseball offseason. Maybe you don't have to break the bank or break up your minor league system in order to win. Now, regarding the two pitchers who did not come, even with a no-trade clause in his contract, it's understandable why Verlander would choose to return to the Astros. I mean, the Mets are now in obvious rebuild mode. They sent Verlander to a team where he won a title. The head-scratcher, though, is Rodriguez, because the Tigers are 47-59, but he was an absolute beast for them this year. The 30-year-old lefty, 6-5 with a 2.95 ERA, barely allows more than a base runner an inning, struck out 91 in 83 innings. Now, he had a no-trade clause in his contract. He listed 10 teams on that, including LA. Now, if you're wondering why you would bargain the Dodgers into a no-trade contract, after all, why the hell would you want to live in Detroit, much less play for the Tigers? Would it surprise you if I tell you why it makes sense for situations such as this? Yeah. Rodriguez is going to be a free agent this offseason. Detroit doesn't believe for a moment that they're going to be able to keep him. Therefore, Rodriguez wanted to use that as a bargaining chip for teams such as the Dodgers. In other words, if you want to trade for me, pay me now. Now, for the Dodgers, if that situation actually transpired, and I believe it did, I do, that's a quandary, because now you're paying Rodriguez. Julio Urias is going to be a free agent in the offseason. So, for that matter, is Clayton Kershaw. And by the way, what about the looming 800-pound gorilla on the free agent market in Shohei Ohtani? There has to be a bottom to even the Dodgers' wallet. There has to be at some point. Fabian Ardaya, to be fair, he covers the Dodgers for The Athletic. He reached out and says that Rodriguez claimed to invoke his no-trade clause to remain closer to his family on the East Coast. Now, that's the word that he's saying, and I don't buy that for a moment. Not a single moment. Now, we've been keeping track of Dodgers rumors for weeks now. Note that dry erase board in the back. There were 37 names on that list. 37. All that the scribes were claiming the Dodgers were interested in. They only acquired 2 on that list. Most of them have been crossed off, going to other teams. I did something similar to last trade deadline and the last year free agency period. It's all done to illustrate the absurdity of the trading and the free agent process and the rumors that you hear online. It's literally just a bunch of scribes throwing as much as they can against the board to see what sticks. Now, in the grand scheme of things, there were only a few players who were interested, or the Dodgers actually were interested in. 4 players the Dodgers acquired last week: Verlander, Rodriguez, Nolan Arenado of St. Louis. Now, Arenado also had a no-trade clause, but there was a belief he would have been happy to come to LA. Why didn't he? The rumor is, whether it's true or not, that all the St. Louis fans lost their bleep. St. Louis's front office actually had to go out and tell the local press, no, we're not going to trade Nolan Arenado. We're not going to do that. But you know what? They damn near traded everybody else. Look at that board. There's a bunch of Cardinals who have been crossed off the list. Starting pitchers, position players, relievers. The Cardinals are in rebuild mode. They simply didn't want to annoy their fan base by doing something that could be seen as benefiting Los Angeles. So where does that leave us? The Dodgers are an incomplete baseball team at best. We knew that going into the year. After all, that last offseason, they lost Trey Turner, Tyler Anderson, Andrew Heaney, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, blah, 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 blah. The idea behind losing all those players, we originally thought it was, you know what, they're just resetting the luxury tax for the next offseason. But lo and behold, the Dodgers still lead the NL West by 2.5 games. These moves are at best meh. So the rotation, you did want to add a Verlander. You did want to add a Rodriguez. What you have instead is Kershaw, Urias, Emmett Sheehan, who, by the way, about a month and a half ago was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Lance Lynn, and maybe Yarbrough. Maybe you return Sheehan and or Bobby Miller to the minors for Tony Gonsolin. Don't know. But all of these moves are basically little tiny increments. So the Dodgers, in my opinion, you shouldn't even begin to think of them as favorites for the world title. Get to the playoffs? Sure. Title? Not so much. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Let me know what you think was the reason, if Rodriguez is actually telling the truth about why he didn't come from Detroit. Let me know what you think about the players the Dodgers actually got rid of or acquired. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelinos. We're talking Dodger baseball every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Faithful Angelinos is a Corte El Queso production. Take care.